Today we begin the chapter 5, Baruch Hashem HaShutafim. We study, if you remember, in the Tractate Nedarim. In those days people used to have a large courtyard and they contained several houses. So in order to get to inside house in those days, you need to pass through this yard that belonged to several people together. So because the entrance is by joining courtyard, some people used to, if you go to South America, you still see it in some places. People leave their stoves, their utensils, the things like that, they leave it. So the situation is several neighbors have a fight. War, fight, whatever it is, and as a result of that heating disputation, each of them prohibited the other from passing by his estate. Now the question is, since each of them needs to go to his home, to that estate, and is a joint courtyard, can they, our tractate is Nedarim, making a commitment, vow, can they pass or transpass toward the joint courtyard? The base of that question, it's called Yesh or Ein Breira. What does that mean? In the Tractate Bava Kama, page 51b, there is a discussion among the rabbis if a retroactive statement, retroactive act, which means that if a person have a designation or retroactive clarification saying that I make certain decisions that goes back to the original state, which means that it's a retroactive understanding, is that it create a boundary against the others. So in our case, if someone is prohibited to derive benefit from the others, the question is, since the other party is part of that, can one party prohibited himself over something that the other party has part of? Meaning you can prohibit yourself over something that you total owns or you have total power, but you cannot prohibit yourself over something that somebody else either partner with you or owns it. So here in general, the Mishnah later on said that we enforce one party that cause all this friction, for example, to sell his part in order to avoid stumbling block. As a derivative from upcoming discussion is a common question about partnership between a Jew and a non-Jew over for example, business, store, etc. on Shabbat. As you know, we as Jews are prohibited to work on Shabbat. If you tell me that you recognize a retroactive act, then you have a problem. Now, here the idea is that the business is open on Shabbat, and if you said, okay, we divided it by the days, this and these days is total my income or it's total share income, so then you can go by the retroactive act of declaration. Let me just share with you some words of the Rambam based on this Gemara. Retroactive clarification or designation means that later decision can be applied retroactively and thereby viewed as if it had been decided from the outset. So here we have a disputation between the sages and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov appeared to hold that due to retroactive clarification, one may consider every step that it takes in the courtyard as if it were taken in his own territory. Since there are several instances in this tractate where the Gemarrah rules according to the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, the rabbis understand that the principle of Brera as accepted halacha. Furthermore, the Rambam said in Hilchot Nedarim, chapter 7, if there are two partners in the courtyard, each of whom vows not to derive benefit from the other, and the courtyard is not large enough to be divided into 4 square cubits for each partner, it is permitted for them to enter the courtyard. Basically, again, follow Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and soon you see the explanation of the Gemara. So basically, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov hold that yesh brera. Now, the question is, when it's come to Oraita, when it's come to a biblical term, you don't go by this brera. The key point, all the rabbis will try to wrap up in a simple way. The idea is, if you have a very clear chalukah, very clear divided estate between each partner, then you can go by the idea of you have a retroactive act. It's clearly that this is your share. But if you have joint estate, then you enter to all those issues when people get angry. Soon you see examples that in halacha, in a father that inherited the place that is a synagogue, for example, which is a public, to several sons, and unfortunately it was a friction, a fight between them, and now can you divide it? It's a public estate, but what exactly the father wish? So the whole subject is involved with if someone commit himself not to derive benefit from the other, and dealing with partners, how you treated partners. So that's the title of this chapter, Hashutafim, meaning partnership. Hashutafim, partners, shenadru hana'a ze mize, 2 partners join courtyard in ownership. Each of them made a vow that prohibited any benefit from its partners. So the Meiri said, Mishnah used just a common scenario. Asurin likanes lechatzer, since the Ran explained, each of them has a tangible, as a right and access to the estate. It's a joint estate. Therefore, you do not have a clear-cut dividedness between the two, and therefore each of them uses the part that belongs to the other. And since it's a join, therefore you said en brera, and therefore they cannot derive benefit from the others. Tosfot said that, look, when it's come to this type of partnership, and soon you see examples of that, for someone leave their meals or things like that. So he said, since meals is usually used for commercial purposes, so they may lead to a heavy foot traffic of clients who will end up on the partner's property as well. So that's the view of the sages. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, he hold that they allow, זה נכנס לתוך שלו, וזה נכנס לתוך שלו. Even you did not divide the estate between the two, potentially each part of this yard belongs to you, and therefore it's yesh brera, it's you partake of your estate since it joined estate. Page 46, now is a rule that applies to everyone. Ushneihem, and both partners, asurin leha'amid, they are forbidden to install reichaim. In that courtyard they cannot put a meal, vetanur, or an oven, ulgadel tarnegolim, or raise chicken there in the courtyard. The idea, as we said, is a Ran idea, there is the Sfot idea, that even Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who hold Yesh Brera, he hold that they can only enter to that courtyard, which is to do some work that one partner cannot withhold the right from the others, because originally it was purchased as a joint partnership of the estate. However, if one partner put their meals or oven, and therefore it's indirectly saying that this estate is his, because that was not the original mindset of the two partners. Why? Because the Gemara said in Bava Batra 57, you need to have a clear consent of the other party in order to put such a commercial. So therefore, you derive benefit from the other, and therefore you are in violation. The Gemara in Bava Batra said that even though usually the matter of partnership they let go something that the other partners done, but according to this Mishnah is when it's come to mudar hana'ah, the Ran explained, it's come to someone who committed himself not to derive benefit from the other, this is, even this situation is prohibited. היה אחד מהם מודר הנאה מחברו. If you have only one partner subject to a vow that he prohibited himself to derive benefit from the other partner, therefore לא ייכנס לחצר, he cannot enter to that joint domain. רבי אליעזר בן יעקב אומר, יכול הוא לומר לו, לתוך שלי אני נכנס, ואיני נכנס לתוך שלך. So it's basically a repetition of the one said of what we said earlier. But the idea is that only one partner prohibited benefit from the other. The same key is that I am entering to my domain, not to you, since they are partners. Now the beauty of that is the Mishnah said, "Vechofin et hanoder limkor et chelko." So we basically enforce the one who make this vow to sell his joint courtyard. So the Ran explained, since Reuven, for example, you have a Reuven and Shimon. So Reuven see that Shimon put his stuff, his whatever utensils there. So he figured out, okay, I'm also allowed, and he is not. So therefore, you have to go by this way to enforce one. You have to differentiate between allowed to enter versus to leave their items that it's yours. היה אחד מן השוק מודר באחד מהם, if just someone from outside, from the street, was basically under that vow that prohibited any benefit from one of the partners. מודר באחד מהם הנאה לא ייכנס לחצר. Why? Because one partner derive benefit. רבי אליעזר בן יעקב אומר, יכול לומר לו לתוך של חברך אני נכנס, ואיני נכנס לתוך שלך. He can say to that partner that made a vow from entering to that domain that that's the way we said earlier, so for sure someone from the street say the same line. Here that the Mishnah wants to tell us that according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, even someone from the street can file this claim to say that I am using the part that belongs to the other partner, and therefore the Ran explained I allow to derive benefit from that. the Ritva elaborates, and he said that you have to restrict it in a certain way. Anyway, the question here can go further. For example, if you have a club, that exclusive club to certain people, you have one friend or one relative in that club, but you have someone that it's the forbidden benefit from. So the question is, since it's a joint club, or in those days it was joint bath house, thank you, or joint building. You go, in Israel you see it in some places, you have big residential building, and in order to not to go to all around the street, you need to trespass that building. So in some cases the tenants of that building don't care, but there are situations that people said, no, we don't want people to trespass to our building. Now you have a situation that they want only people who live in that building to use this one trespass, and you have there a relative or friend that allow you to go toward him. The other tenants in the building said, the other people, they said, no, we have a rules, it's only for our tenants. Based on this, you can ask that question. If you said yesh brera or en brera, can one person put this and make the exceptions or not? Here is another example of rental estate. Hamudar hana'a mechavero. If someone is subject to a vow prohibiting him to benefit from his fellow, ויש לו בית מרחץ, he has a bath house, ובית הבד, or an olive press, מושכרים בעיר. So they are a lease to a third party in a city. So the idea is, אם יש לו בהן תפיסת יד, if the landlord has retained a holding for the olive press, to the bathhouse, asur. So since it's not part of the rent, so the one who forbidden to have benefit is prohibited to use them. Ein lot bahen fisat yad, mutar. If no one has a part of that, they allow. So it means the whole question is if you have some percentage. Later the Gemara explains what does that mean, tfisat yad. But here is the Rambam. The Rambam tells us it in Talmud Nedarim chapter 7. When two partners in a courtyard prohibited each other from deriving benefit from their portion by means of a vow, they are both prohibited from setting up an oven or a milestone and from raising chickens in the courtyard. If only one of them was forbidden by means of vow, as we said later in the Mishnah, then it is prohibited only for him to derive benefit from the other's portion. You see it in Shulchan Aruch Yoredea in 226 that the Shach notes that this holds true even with regard to a courtyard which is too small to be divided. So here the Rambam continues, if someone was prohibited by a vow from deriving benefit from his partner, he is permitted to enter his partner's house and a jointly owned courtyard, but he cannot make any use of them. That's basically, again, follow Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. If one partner in a courtyard vows that the other partner may not derive benefit from him, he is forced to sell his portion of the field. That's the Rambam. The Ravid explain that the Rambam ruling is according to the understanding presented in the Talmud Yerushalmi. But basically, according to our Babylonian Talmud, the one who's forbidden by a vow must sell his portion. So, as we said, he can claim, and he said, if a third party was forbidden by a vow from deriving benefit from one of the partners, he is still permitted to enter the jointly owned courtyard solely for the purpose of engaging with the permitted partner. Again, that's Pharaoh Eliezer ben Yaakov. So, bathhouse. If one is prohibited by a vow from deriving benefit from another, and the other has a bathhouse or olive press, which he leases to others, so the forbidden party may use the bathhouse or olive press only if the owner has forfeited his right of usage and has not explicitly prohibited him from entering. Anyway, haomer lechavero, if someone said to his fellow, konam lebeitcha she'ani nichnas. If someone said to his fellow, I make a konam, I made a vow that I do not enter to your house. You know this famous joke, that you're building a synagogue, one Jew in an empty island, so you build two synagogues. The second one is something that I'll never step in. So if one says to his fellow, I never enter to your house, or vesadcha shani lokeach, or you feel that I'm purchasing, or shemecharo le'acher, umet, and that fellow passed away, the owner, or the owner of the owner of the house, the owner of the field, or shemecharo le'acher, or if it sell it to someone else. So therefore mutar, because he only prohibited to that specific, he used the word beitcha, meaning if you use the word bait, it's different. Beitcha, this specific one. Konam bait ze shani nichnas. If he said konam, my entering to this specific house, sadeh zo she'ani lokeach, purchasing this specific field, umet, and he passed away, or shemecharo le'acher, or if he sell it to another, asur, the vower is forbidden to enter the house or to purchase the field. So there is a lot of halachic implication, because if he specified this house by ze konam, this house, so he basically prohibited the structure of the house without anything to do with the ownership. But here you can ask a question about attic, roof, basement, joint estate. So imagine you have partners in a building, and one, you see it a lot in Israel. You see one person want to extend his balcony. It's a large family, want to expand his attic, want to expand to build on the roof, etc. And you have the other people who oppose it. He filed the city, the zoning, and the neighbors put, sometimes unfortunately even in the middle of the work, they put their objections. Either they want money, or they say that you make their estates dark. One of my very close friends, I can use his name because it's not a secret, his name is Kentor Mari Bazian. So he made Aliyah from New York City, went to Israel. At that time, it was Jerusalem neighborhood, it's called Pisgat Ze'ev, Tzafon. It's one of those relatively new neighborhood, 25 years old or something like that. So the builder built their house. They built for him really, for Israeli standards, a huge palace. It's like mansion in Israeli standards. 3 floors, huge, like jacuzzi, 3-4 floors. The master bedroom was double sized. They didn't put a wall in between. It was a large house. And one of the beauty he had at that time, that you see the Yam HaMelach, you see Jordan, you see the Dead Sea from his house. Mm-hmm. He was the happiest person in the world. Unfortunately, for health reasons, etc., he needs to go to United States for some time. So he came here and he turns because of sickness, etc., that it was long, meaning, if I'm not mistaken, about 1.5 or 2 years. That his house was always paid and was just lacked vacant. Meanwhile, the builder was building all around him. When he comes back, they block all of his views, already with ready buildings. Went to court, too late. Meaning, they said, the attorney said, if it was while you are living there, you can file the motions and most probably you will be successful. But they took advantage. It was terrible, right? But the idea here is, you see it, I saw it in the neighborhood I live. I used to live for about 12 years or so in Harnof. So we moved to America and we rent the apartment. So what happened is the neighbor at the top of us built without our consent extended his kitchen and extended his sukkah, etc., and he darked our kitchen and our dining room. And a friend of mine, may rest in peace, who took care of that apartment, called me and said, you know, I just changed the lease of a tenant. The tenant moved out. I painted and I noticed that the house is very dark. It was too late to do anything. And I didn't feel comfortable to sue another, frum guy, etc. It's my things. I didn't want to go that direction. Anyway, it's already sold. It's over. But just to let you know that this type of discussions in halacha, it's painful and it's serious, because you have all these objections and you enter to this domain, which we're going to see in the Gemara. If yesh brera or en brera, if you go by the retroactive act or not. So if you tell me that everyone agrees that yesh brera, like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, only Rabbanan hold that when it's come to isur hana'ah, forbidden benefit, that to pass by this courtyard. Ibaya lehu, if you have these two partners, ben nadru pligei, the Mishnah speak about partners who took a serious vow that each one prohibited the others. So here you see the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov view, hediru ze et ze, each of them prohibited to derive benefit from the others. What is the view of the sages? Mi amrinan benadru de fligei. You tell me that they only regarding to when each partner took a neder. So therefore the sages disputed Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and forbid the partners from getting to that area that is belong to both. אבל, מי אמרנו בנדרו ובפליגה? אבל בדירו זה את זה, מודו לרבנן, but if each impose a vow on the other, so the sages agree Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that you don't go stringent, and you don't prohibited each partner to enter that domain, dechi anusin damu, that they are basically they forced to do it. It wasn't with their wishes, and therefore, since they are anusin, it's like the sages also hold the same as Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, the yesh brera, but here it's a situation that they are forced to do it. או דילמה אפילו הדירו זה את זה פליגה רבנן. Or you say that even with each partner impose a vow on the other, the sages disagree with Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and therefore they forbid the partners from entering to that a joint domain. Which means, may you say that the sages hold the one explained that ein bera, and therefore each of the partner prohibited together. Tashma haya echad mehem mudar hana mechavero, if one of them made a neder, made a vow that forbidden benefit from the others, according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, he can go to the common joint courtyard. Upligei Rabbanan, the sages disputed and prohibited. So by using the term mudar, we imply that this type of vow that impose upon one person, so you see here that the sages become stringent, even the one prohibited the benefit from the other. So the Gemara said, Tanei nadu mechavero ana'ah. The Mishnah said that the partner has taken a neder, prohibited him from drive benefit from the other guy. So mudar is not necessarily that someone else imposed a neder on him. It means regardless if he himself did it or said or someone else did. So therefore the Mishnah may say that it's with his will, and therefore if it was not with his will, may the sages agree with Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov that he is permitted to enter to a common domain. So they said, Hachinama mistabra. That's the way you can explain the Mishnah. The Katana is Sefer that we learn at the last clause of the Mishnah. Good morning, Elliot. V'chofin et hanoder limkor et chelko. We enforce the one who took a neder to sell his share in the courtyard. I amart bishlama denadaru. If you tell me that the Mishnah dealing with a situation that the person took a case upon himself, hainu diktane kofin. That was the teaching God that we enforce him to sell his part in the courtyard. Why? In order to avoid a stumbling block, a sin from the other partner for violating this neder, because it's basically put this prohibition against driving benefits. Elai amart de adrei, but if you say that the Mishnah dealing where the other partner imposed the neder on him, amai kofinoto, why you force him to sell this portion of the courtyard? Ha meinas anis, he was forced in this type of predicament and is not deserved to forbid his part. So it means that you have here this machloket between the Rambam and the Ravid. If this one partner prohibited himself all the driving benefit from the others, if that means that that's a prohibition that goes both ways. I'll give you a current case. This case, it's brought up by a book called Avodat HaGershuni, is the name of a book. Lady was very ill, and while she was ill, she committed herself, let's give a number, $10,000 to give to yeshiva. If I get well, I'm giving to yeshiva 10,000 grand. Husband was there, he was quiet. All of a sudden, miracle happened, and she is well. The husband came in and said, look, I saw her in agony, I saw her situations, so I didn't say anything. But I didn't agree with that. So now the question is, based on this discussion, is that considering nidrei honest or not? Is that considering a committed vow that was forced or not. The book called Avodat HaGershuni deal with that based on this Gemara. So now we need to understand the disputation, yesh or en bera, between the sages and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Amar Rabba, Amar Zeiri, Rabba said, name of Zeiri, good morning Dr. Friedman. 46b, מחלוקת שיש בה כדי חלוקה. The disputation between Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and the sages speak about the courtyard, that where is there sufficient a place in the courtyard that you can divide it. So basically the way you divided it, you have 4 square cubits for each partner. So you have each of them said that they have a portion that can be forbidden to the others because you have this size for each partner. So the only case like that, the sages prohibited the partners to enter to that domain. אבל אין בה כדי חלוקה, which means if it's not sufficient area that you can divide the estate to each partner, so none of these partners can enforce the other not to enter to their domain. לדברי הכל מותר. So everyone agree, even the sages agree, that is permitted to benefit from her. Why? Because all of them belongs to both of them, and each one of them can say that he is entering to his own domain. Amar le Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef said to Rabbah, Harei bet HaKnesset, if you talk about shul, about synagogue, right? That's considering what? A partnership for many people. There's a Meiri that elaborates, but we just go to the key point. דקמי שאין בו כדי חלוקה דמי. That it's considered like the courtyard which there is no sufficient area to be divided. Where are the board members? Right? So, therefore, I'm joking. None. So we learn in page 47. They need to learn this, board, Elliot. It's important. We talk about the shul business.
And show up at the minyan, so we get a minyan.
That's right. 47b. So in the case that the people in the city, right, prohibited to derive benefit from each other, usually you should know in the shul business, I'm almost 20 years, I can tell you, people who really do things in the shul are usually, not always, but usually not people who sit on the board. The doers, there are few. Anyway, שניהן אסורים בדבר של אותה העיר. Both are prohibited deriving a benefit from and entirely belong to the city. And that includes the synagogue. So you see from here that the city is prohibited deriving benefit even from such entity. אלא אמר רבי יוסף, אומר זירי מחלוקת שאין בה כדי חלוקה. אבל יש בה כדי חלוקה, דברי הכל אסור. So now you see a final הלכה, אמר רבונה הלכה כרבי אליעזר בן יעקב, וכן אמר רבי אלעזר הלכה כרבי אליעזר בן יעקב, that we go, that even משנת רבי אליעזר בן יעקב קר ונקי, that we always go there, that's the Gemara in Bechorot 23b, but here, want to emphasize, even it's not always look like that, we go that way. The Chebiner Rav have a big responsa about a father that inherited the shul to his sons. It's probably a big shul. And it was one time, unfortunately, a fight there. And each of them prohibited the others to derive benefit from anything in the shul. So they come and they ask a question, now, can some people or all people can enter the synagogue? How do you do that? Can you divide the synagogue? So the Chebiner Rav said, look, when the father built it, he built it l'shem shamayim, he built it for the sake of heaven. So therefore, he says, none of the children, when the sons inherited, they cannot enforce something like that on the other parties. He called it ha'isur lochal. You cannot forbidden benefit for something that the father originally inherited as a public domain that joined by all the sons. But in a Rishonim you have here discussion based on this sugya, if you hold yesh bara always. The Rambam said, let me just read something. The Rambam said in Talmud Nedarim chapter 7, even though Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov permits the prohibited partner to use a portion of a jointly owned courtyard, this applies only when the courtyard cannot be divided. If the courtyard is a sufficient area to be divided, he concedes that the partner should divide the property between themselves and neither should use the portion of his partner. That's basically follow Rav Yosef. So in that sense, again, this is one of those things that you need to have a prominent posek to ask when it's come to this type of questions, especially public domain like synagogue.
ויחם לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי